Today, I am going to explain how will you measure your life. This is a book that helps us solve personal life planning issues. It has 240 pages, and I will take about 28 minutes to cover the essence of the book. How to view and plan our lives more reasonably and thereby achieve our own sense of happiness and success. Besides happiness, we seem to have everything. But where is happiness? This has become a major issue for individuals and society today. This book does not provide answers, but offers methods to find them. In this book, the author shares some of his life experiences, from dreaming of becoming an editor for the Wall Street Journal to experiencing entrepreneurial failures, returning to school, discovering his passion for education, and living strongly after a cancer diagnosis. He combines his experiences with research findings in business management, using accessible language to discuss life planning. The author emphasizes in the book, "Find what you truly love, as this is the root of happiness." He hopes everyone can realize how important it is to seriously think about life. If you're looking for a quick success formula in this book, you might be disappointed. The author believes there are 1,000 definitions of success in the eyes of 1,000 people. The greatest success in our lives does not come from others' evaluations, but from inner satisfaction. Understanding what is most important to you in life is the key to evaluating your life. This is what the book truly wants to tell us. The unique feature of this book is that the author skillfully combines business management research findings with life planning issues. The author believes that theories in business management can help not only managers solve company crises, but also be used for personal life planning. They can help us clearly define the criteria for measuring success, allocate resources reasonably, and thus embrace a happy life. On the cover of this book, we see the names of 3 authors: Clayton Christensen, James Allworth, and Karen Dillon. In fact, this book originates from a highly influential lecture by the first author, Professor Christensen, at Harvard Business School. This lecture was hailed as the most important lesson before graduating from Harvard Business School. James, a Harvard Business School graduate, and Karen, an editor of Harvard Business Review, were deeply touched by this lecture and approached Professor Christensen to jointly complete this book. At the time of writing, Professor Christensen had just been diagnosed with lymphoma, enduring the pain and torment of chemotherapy, but he still persisted in completing the book with strong willpower. All right, after introducing the basic situation of the book and the authors, I will now share the content of the book with you from 3 aspects: how to find the career you truly love, how to persist in the career you love, and how to manage family relationships while developing your career. Let's start. Part 1. How to find the career you truly love. As children, many of us were asked a question: what is your dream? Some wanted to be writers, some wanted to be scientists, some wanted to be athletes. But when we grew up, few of us actually pursued our childhood dream careers. When we blurt out our dream jobs, do we truly understand their meaning? Or do we just think these jobs sound impressive? Regarding this question, the author emphasizes the importance of strategic planning and believes that just as enterprises have strategic goals, individuals should also have personal strategic goals. To find a career that you truly love and that brings you happiness, there are 3 questions you need to face. First, what truly motivates you? The most obvious and commonly used motivation might be economic or material incentives. The author believes that material incentives only work in some contexts and cannot be universally effective. For example, some highly educated individuals choose to work in nonprofit organizations or charities instead of high-paying jobs. Another example is many graduates from prestigious schools who choose to teach in rural areas or work in places where the country needs them most. Despite the lack of high income, they have a strong sense of job satisfaction. These life choices cannot be explained by material motivation alone. The author believes that material incentives might be just a basic factor for engaging in a certain job. Beyond the basic factors, the real motivational factors should come from people's inner love and interest, which are the motivations we should truly value. Today, people face great life pressure to buy a house, a car, to win others' envy, to become their parents' pride, and to achieve their dreams. Income is important, but if income is the primary or even the only standard for job hunting, then this job at most is just a means of making a living and cannot become your ultimate pursuit. A job that you truly love should not just be about earning money, but also should align with your values, be challenging, be recognized, cultivate a sense of responsibility, and help personal growth. Only by finding the job you truly love can you find happiness in work. Second, how to balance thorough planning and accidental opportunities. The author introduces two concepts here: deliberate strategy and emergent strategy. A deliberate strategy is a detailed plan made before doing something, also known as anticipated opportunities, whereas an emergent strategy refers to measures taken in response to unexpected opportunities. Finding a job that both motivates you and satisfies basic factors is very difficult. Few people find the most suitable job right after graduation, and few people stick to only one career throughout their lives. Our life planning is always in a state of intertwining and adjusting between deliberate strategy and emergent strategy. When an emergent strategy proves effective, it quickly rises to become a deliberate strategy. In this part, the author shares some insights from his job hunting career. His dream in freshman year was to become an editor for the Wall Street Journal, which was his deliberate strategy. But after he failed to get an internship position there, he got an opportunity to intern at a consulting firm. The firm promised some tempting benefits, so he decided to accept the job temporarily, which was his emergent strategy. After his entrepreneurial failure, an accidental opportunity led him back to school, where he found his beloved career. In this process, we can see that the author actually moved farther away from his deliberate strategy, while his emergent strategy repeatedly took precedence and ultimately decided his life direction. Therefore, in life's journey, timely and flexible strategy adjustments are reasonable and necessary choices. This way, you won't stray too far off course and can minimize detours. Third, whether the strategy you implement is consistent with your ultimate goal. In other words, are you really striving for what you want? This may sound absurd. If it's not what I want, why would I put in the effort? But the truth is often absurd. The author believes that in the process of strategy formulation, resource allocation is the key. Why do many people never achieve their dreams? Is it because their dreams are unrealistic or because they just want to get something for nothing? Fundamentally, it's because they are unwilling to spend enough time, energy, and money on the most important things, or they have invested their time, energy, and money in the wrong things. If a person puts all their time and energy into their career, and while achieving career success, their spouse files for divorce and their children are distant from them, this resource allocation is obviously unreasonable. The author believes that whether it's a country, a company, or an individual, they often cannot avoid the tendency for quick success. We are always more willing to focus on things that can quickly bring a sense of accomplishment, neglecting those projects that are beneficial for long-term development. The author gives an example. Take the United States, for example. Although everyone knows that the existing medical insurance, Social Security, and other welfare policies are riddled with problems, no member of Congress proposes a solution. Because once someone suggests reducing benefits, it offends all the voters who benefit from the high welfare policy, and no one is willing to bear the cost of being ousted because of a proposal. Many successful people, although they know that family is the most important thing to them, spend more time on career advancement and wealth accumulation because accompanying a partner and educating children is a long process. In this case, the resources they invest do not align with their strategic goals. If you don't want to become such a person, you need to figure out what is most important now and then reallocate your resources. This decision is yours to make. To sum up, to find a career you love, you need to answer 3 questions. 1. What are the motivating factors and basic factors, and what is your purpose for looking for a job? 2. Balance deliberate strategy and emergent strategy, and know when to adjust and balance them. 3. Examine whether the resources you invest are consistent with your goals, ensuring you are always on the right path. Part 2. How to persist in the career you love. You can't do well with a 3-minute passion, and every success in the world comes with preparation. For a company, goals are like a lighthouse. Managers set clear goals to motivate employees to work together. The author believes that effective corporate goals include 3 components. 1 is a future picture, which is the image of the company in the minds of managers and employees. 2. Employees' sense of identity with the picture, because only when the company's goals align with employees' work ideals will they willingly invest in work and consciously protect the company's interests. 3. A measure of standards, because successful companies usually establish a standard by which employees can evaluate their work. This way, employees can always remind themselves to move towards the company's goals by comparing to this standard. A company's goals are not determined by chance, but through long-term thinking and planning. The author's discussion about corporate goals also applies to life planning. Those who lead social reform movements have very clear and definite goals. For example, Mahatma Gandhi's lifelong goal was to achieve India's freedom, equality, and independence through nonviolent non-cooperation movements. On August 28, 1963, at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a speech titled, "I Have a Dream," proposing to change racial discrimination and achieve the goal of the land of freedom in America. With goals, we are one step closer to becoming the person we want to be. However, undeniably, in the process of achieving goals, unexpected opportunities and challenges will arise. Should we stick to the initial goals or adjust them timely? This tests our patience and wisdom and depends on the scientific nature of the goals themselves. In the author's view, at every stage of achieving the future picture, we need to ask ourselves this question: who do I really want to become? If one day you find that the picture of yourself is not who you want to be, you must stop, reconsider, and choose. Otherwise, you will go further down the wrong path. But once you determine who you want to be, you must give 100% persistence. Determining who you want to be may not be difficult, but what is truly difficult is whether you can make all sacrifices and efforts to become that person. Temptations in life are everywhere. To get high scores, some students cheat in exams and end up disqualified. Some athletes use banned drugs to win gold medals, destroying their careers. The reason why people are willing to take the dangerous step is to make success come more easily, and the cost of only making one mistake seems very low. Here, the author introduces the concept of marginal cost. Simply put, it means the cost of everything is very high at the beginning, but as the quantity increases and the process extends, the cost becomes lower and lower. For example, the cost of producing the first Apple phone was very high, but by the time the 1 millionth one was produced, the cost was very low. The trap in this thinking lies in making people ignore the true cost of only this once behavior. Many people think that taking a bribe just once, cheating just once, and evading a ticket just once is not a big deal. But the problem is that once there is a first time, there will be a second and third time. Once you start condoning your mistakes, your value yardstick and moral standards will collapse. Making one mistake essentially equals making multiple mistakes. So, the author emphasizes in the book that a person's destruction is not caused instantaneously, but is the result of multiple, only this once, accumulations. The author tells us a story about a 26-year-old trader who accumulated $1.3 billion in debt, eventually leading to the collapse of the British Barings Bank. Initially, he made a very small mistake, but to cover up this small mistake, he had to make more mistakes, such as forging documents and falsifying reports. Ultimately, he was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. In an interview, he said his motive was not to accumulate wealth, but to let success continue. If he had foreseen such an outcome from the beginning, where he would lose the most important things in his life, freedom, marriage, career, would he have made the same decision? The author finally reminds us that persistence is the most important thing in life. The joy of no bad consequences from making an exception once will tempt people to make exceptions repeatedly, ultimately falling into the abyss. Therefore, the best way to resist temptation is never to take the most dangerous first step. If you can stick to the bottom line 99 times out of 100, it seems very principled. But the result is no different from those without principles because 100 minus 1 is equal to 0. The law will not forgive a person just because they only broke it once. Sticking to principles may prevent us from taking some small advantages, but makes our spiritual legacy richer, earns more people's admiration and higher status. Isn't that worth it? In summary, the author believes that whether it is a company or an individual, to truly persist in the career you love, you need to focus your energy on the most important things based on clearly established goals. But he also believes that our attitude towards goals should not be too rigid and stubborn. We must learn to adjust our initial goals when faced with unexpected opportunities and dangers. But once we determine what we truly want, we must persist without any reservation, without abandoning long-term success and happiness for short-term benefits. Part 3. How to manage family relationships while developing a career. At the beginning of this part, the author tells us, work and career bring us instant achievement, while family brings us long-lasting happiness. If you want to become a wealthy businessman in the future, you need to start investing now, because money won't automatically come into your pocket. If you want to have a rich network of connections in the future, you need to start managing it now. But many people don't realize that our relationships with our spouses and children also need investment and management. The author believes that to maintain a long-term close relationship with family members, the first thing to do is to invest time. Here, the author explains the good money and bad money theory in business management, which also applies to our lives. If you spend only a small amount of money and find that your investment direction is wrong, and you adjust the direction timely, the money you invest in this situation is good money. Conversely, if you put all your money in and then find out the initial strategy is fundamentally wrong, it is bad money. In daily life, many people often use the phrase, "I will make it up to you when I have time," to brush off our family members. If you don't stop this wrong practice timely, you will never have the chance to invest in emotions, which are the true source of our happiness. The author believes that you shouldn't neglect the people you care about most in the world and should invest in the relationship before you need it. Secondly, you need to understand your partner's needs. The author believes that clarifying your partner's needs is the premise and foundation for establishing a good relationship with them, rather than only considering your own needs. We all have the most important job in life, which is to be someone else's spouse. Many people may think that being a good husband means supporting the family, and being a good wife means taking care of the household. The author believes that this understanding is not entirely wrong, but is superficial and incomplete. When a husband sees his wife's angry face, his first reaction is often to think she might be too tired, so he should help with the chores. But in fact, what she might want is just a hug. The author believes that many marriages based on selfless dedication fail because they only give what they want to give, without considering what the other person wants. In today's popular phrase, you think you've touched the world, but in the end, you've only touched yourself. Next, you need to cultivate your children's ability to succeed. The author believes Dell was once one of the most successful laptop manufacturers in the world, but it lost its core competitiveness due to frequent outsourcing. For a company, the most important abilities are threefold: resources, processes, and values. This model also applies to the process of nurturing children. The author believes that for children, resources refer to the knowledge and experience they gain from elsewhere, and processes refer to their way of thinking. They form their ways of seeing and handling things by listening to teachers in class and observing how parents, teachers, and classmates solve problems. What is the difference between these two? For example, the knowledge children receive in class is their resource, but if they use this knowledge to invent a small item, that is their process ability. Another example is a child remembers their parents teaching to respect the elderly. When they see an elderly person fall, they actively help them up. This is the process of transforming resources into process ability. Values refer to a child's choice tendency, which is their motivation for doing something. In everyone's mind, there is consideration for what should and should not be done, which involves personal values. For example, two children of the same age, one thinks getting high scores is the happiest thing, while the other thinks going out with friends is the happiest. These two children will have different distributions of their spare time. Returning to Dell's experience, the author believes now many parents, due to busy work and eager to let their children win at the starting line, start outsourcing the task of raising their children. How do they outsource? They send their children to various extracurricular tutoring classes and summer camps, such as dance, music, and piano classes. Although it reduces the parents' burden, the children may not like it or invest in it, resulting in a waste of a lot of time and resources. These parents made the same mistake as Dell, focusing solely on the resources their children acquire and ignoring the cultivation of their process abilities, which are crucial for their future success. So, how should parents help their children acquire the ability to succeed? In other words, how should they cultivate their children's abilities in resources, processes, and values? The author offers 3 suggestions. First, every parent's words and actions are models for their children to imitate. Parents should always pay attention to their words and actions. In most families, parents' behavior and choices leave a deep mark in children's minds, gradually forming their views on life, the world, and values. If parents educate children to respect the elderly while neglecting their own parents, such education is meaningless. Second, when children encounter difficulties, parents should encourage them to solve the problems independently instead of solving them for them. Out of love for their children, parents provide various ready-made solutions. Over time, children's process abilities will diminish or even disappear. Third, parents should help their children find what they truly love instead of forcing them to learn certain knowledge. Anyone is more willing to focus on what interests them. Parents should not assume that children who love mathematics have a bright future, while those who love painting are not serious. Parents' role is to help their children grow happily, not to stifle their nature with worldly standards. I've just shared with you the need to invest time in maintaining long-term close relationships with family, understand your partner's needs, and cultivate your children's abilities to succeed. In addition, we cannot do without an invisible hand: family culture. Corporate culture is crucial for a company's development. For example, if a company's culture is integrity, regardless of who the manager is, there is unlikely to be a culture of deception and fraud. Culture is not formed overnight. It is the way people work towards a common goal. In other words, this is also a company's values. The author believes that this theory also applies to family relationships. Parents cannot always be with their children to help them make choices, so cultivating children's abilities is the most important responsibility of parents. Helping children gain knowledge is far less important than helping them form correct values. When seeing someone stealing, do children think it is right or wrong? Do they feel they should step forward to stop it, ignore it, or participate in it? These all involve the child's value yardstick, which comes from family education. Corporate culture determines employees' values, and family culture determines family members' values. Once a specific family culture is formed, children no longer need to seek their parents' opinions before doing everything because they know what their parents expect them to do and what aligns with the family culture. If in your family culture, success is defined as having wealth, your children may naturally give up dreams that do not bring direct economic benefits because they know that if they insist, they will not get their parents' approval or social recognition. Culture is a permeation process. Once formed, it is hard to change. Therefore, parents should not underestimate it, as family culture will influence a child's entire life. That's the last part of this book. Let's summarize briefly. The author believes that maintaining long-term close relationships with family members is the source of our happiness. To keep this source flowing, you need to invest time, understand your partner's needs, cultivate your children's abilities in resources, processes, and values, and strive to create a positive family culture. All right, that's about it for the key content of this book. Let's do a brief recap. First, we discussed how to find the career you truly love. You need to understand what truly motivates you. High salary is just a basic factor for choosing a job and cannot make you love it. You need to make a thorough plan before job hunting, but also know how to choose when facing accidental opportunities. You need to ensure your effort direction is consistent with your goals. Secondly, we talked about how to persist in the career you love. The hardest thing in the world is to persist. Once you determine a goal and it is scientifically reasonable, you need to persist without compromise. The danger of only this once marginal thinking lies in that no matter how small the mistake, once you take the first step, you will inevitably lose the most important things in your life. Finally, regarding how to manage family relationships while developing your career, the author believes that you need to invest more time and energy in educating your children and deepening the relationship with your spouse. Reject selfless dedication and love your children and spouse in the way they wish to be loved. Avoid the tragedy of outsourcing and consciously cultivate the abilities your children need for future success, not dumping parental responsibility onto training institutions. Build family culture to help your children form correct values. Some say these are Professor Christensen's 3 life questions in the face of death. As a cancer patient, his strength is touching. Although he did not directly answer, "What is success?" his words inspire us not to be bound by worldly standards of success and to find what we truly want to do from the bottom of our hearts. In this era where everyone desires success, we all urgently want to prove ourselves successful. But the greatest sense of achievement for a person does not come from others' evaluations, but from inner desire. If you spend the time accompanying your children and spouse on work, you have undoubtedly lost the most vigorous part of your life. The book, How Will You Measure Your Life dedicates a lot of space to reminding us not to ignore the most important people in our lives and to invest time and energy in deepening the relationship with our loved ones. The author applies his analysis conclusions on business success and failure to personal success and happiness because, like businesses, our personal success and happiness are not predestined but result from our choices. Faced with life's uncertainties, the only solution is to recognize our position and know clearly who we want to become when achieving any goal. That's the essence of this book. You can click the description below the video to find the link to the book. Welcome to read it. You can also share this book with your friends. If you like the content of Daily Book Dive, click the subscribe button to stay updated. Your encouragement helps us continue bringing book essence to our community. Congratulations, you've finished another book.